Chapter 2, Healers and Hospitals. 8 July 1992, Harry's eyes fluttered open painfully, and he took in his new surroundings in confusion. He was lying in a comfortable single bed in a sparsely decorated but rather homey room. Early morning sunlight filtered in through the window blinds and was reflected in the multicolored crystals of a mobile that was hanging over his head. Almost immediately, Harry sneezed due to the spicy aroma of dozens of multicolored candles situated around the room. Then, he bit back a hiss of pain as a burning ache rocketed through his entire body from the sudden movement. Instantly, as if in response to his pain, the crystal mobile started to jangle discordantly. Barely a minute later, the door opened, and a middle-aged man with thinning blonde hair and a friendly face entered the room. He wore a flowing white robe with a blue caduceus symbol that reminded Harry of the robes Madame Pomfrey sometimes wore in the school infirmary. The robe was open in the front, however, and looked more like a doctor's lab coat, and Harry was surprised to see that the healer also wore a pair of muggled trousers, a button-down shirt, a bow tie, and fuzzy brown house slippers designed to look like small animals of some kind. "Good morning, Mr. Potter. So good to see you're back with us. Tonks is the name." "Ted Tonks, I gather my daughter's been giving you defense lessons." "Only one," the boy coughed painfully. His whole body was sore, and his throat was so raw he could barely speak above a whisper. "Only one session so far. Unfortunately, we didn't cover cheap shots and doxy swarms on the first day. How did I get wherever here is here?" "Is the Tonks Clinic. My wife Andromeda and I operate a clinic out of our home in Hogsmeade for the benefit of locals who don't want to go all the way to St. Mungo's for minor ailments. Normally, Andy handles pediatric patients, but she's currently in France teaching a seminar on medical healing at Beauxbatons, so you're stuck with me. Anyway, your solicitor Miss Jones had you brought in over the weekend because... Well, I gather it was because there might be some sort of complications if you went to St. Mungo's." As the healer spoke, he calmly removed several burnt-out candles and replaced them with new ones that sparkled in the sunlight coming in through the window, as if glitter had been mixed in with the candle wax. Then, he pulled some wire, half-moon spectacles from a pocket and donned them while examining the arrangement of crystals in the mobile. Dissatisfied for some inscrutable reason pertaining to chakras, he rearranged several crystals so that their reflected light would strike Harry in some more auspicious manner.
"What sort of complications?"
asked Harry as he tried to figure out the purpose behind the healer's seemingly random actions.
"Well,"
he said,
"severe doxy poisoning is the sort of thing you can go to St. Mungo's for without anyone batting an eye, Mr. Potter. But accompanied by a black eye, a fractured jaw and a concussion, that's the sort of thing that gets people talking, especially for someone in your circumstances."
At that, Harry remembered that had happened, that Vernon Dursley had struck him hard enough to nearly knock him out, and then thrown him out to be devoured by the doxy swarm.
"Yeah,"
he thought.
"nearly getting murdered by your guardian, who is also your estranged parents' brother-in-law, might definitely get people talking."
Harry shifted his position, grimacing in pain as he did. "What day is it?"
"Tuesday the 8th at 8:45 in the AM. You've been in a healing coma since around 8 o'clock on Saturday night. The process by which doxy venom is neutralized is extremely painful, so I thought it best you sleep through as much of the experience as possible. You woke up a wee bit ahead of schedule."
Ted suddenly glanced down at his feet and then looked back up sheepishly.
"Hence the badger slippers."
Harry laughed and then winced from the pain.
"So that was what they were supposed to be."
He thought to himself.
"Badger slippers, what else would a Hufflepuff wear around the house? I wonder if they come in a snake theme." "What can you tell me about what happened last Saturday night, Healer Tonks?"
He asked aloud. "Call me Ted, Mr. Potter. I'm Muggle-born, you see, and never really went in for pureblood etiquette. There was a chime that rang somewhere nearby. Do hold that thought, Mr. Potter. I believe company's arrived that can answer all your questions better than I." Ted stepped out of the room for just a moment and then returned with Hester Jones and, to Harry's surprise, Professor Snape. The latter was carrying several vials which Ted took and held up to the light to examine. The healer returned to Harry's bedside and handed one of the vials to the boy.
"That will soothe your throat a bit and make speaking easier,"
he said, While Harry drank the potion, Ted waved his wand over the boy in a complicated pattern.
All right, Mr. Potter. Harry,
He said less painfully.
I was muggle-raised too, so if we're going to be on a first-name basis, might as well be mutual.
Ted smiled.
All right, Harry. I know you have questions, so I'm giving you 5 minutes to ask what you want from Miss Jones and Professor Snape. Then you'll be drinking the rest of these potions the good professor has prepared, and they'll put you back to sleep for the rest of the day and all night until the last of the venom is being neutralized. You'll be right as rain in the morning.
Thank you, Ted. He looked over at the other two. Hestia looked horrified at his condition, while Snape wore his usual emotionless mask.
I knew. We should have gotten you a personal emergency portkey.
Gisbard.
And by tomorrow we will have one for you, even if I have to wring Violetta Edgecombe's neck to get it.
It's okay, Hestia.
He said softly, while trying not to move too much.
I'm alive. That's what matters. Although I would like to know how I got here. I thought I was done for. The last thing I remember is...
His voice trailed off. The last thing he remembered was Vernon's smile. Snape stepped forward.
I believe it would be best if you were to go first and tell us what you remember, Potter. Then Miss Jones can fill in the gaps.
Harry nodded and told what he remembered from Saturday night. His strange encounter with Dobby, the swarm of doxies, how Vernon had sucker-punched him and thrown him out to die. Then he looked concerned for a moment.
Also, I remember using a Lohomora to get inside the house. Am I going to be in trouble for underage magic? Actually,
Said Hestia.
that little misdemeanor probably saved your life. It registered with the Office of Underage Magic, and they sent a first offence owl notice to the Dursleys. As your registered solicitor, I got a courtesy copy and immediately knew something bad must have happened with those muggles, so I apparated straight there. You were already unconscious, but I was able to shoo most of the doxies away from you and set up a protective shield. Then, just a minute or so later, the auras showed up. Apparently, the doxies killed the Ministry Owl that was carrying your underage magic warning.
I saw that.
Said Harry with a sick expression.
They ripped the poor thing apart. It was awful. I've no doubt.
She continued.
But the important thing for us is that the Ministry pays attention to its official owls, and when one of them gets killed while delivering an official legal notice, auras automatically get dispatched to the scene. 2 of them showed up and were able to eradicate the doxies. Then I had one of them transport you here while the other aura and I went in to talk to the Dursleys. You'll be happy to know that all of your personal possessions are now at our offices. Well, except for this one.
With a smile, she reached into her handbag and produced Harry's wand. The boy smiled in relief.
Thanks, I was afraid Vernon might have snapped it. It had rolled under the couch. When it wasn't on your person or among your things, I used the summoning charm. Also, to answer your earlier question, you are allowed to use underage magic for self-defense. The aura report made it clear that you were defending yourself against an unusually large doxy swarm, and I've already filed the paperwork to expunge that first warning from your file.
Harry sighed.
So what happens next? Somebody wants to kill me and the Dursleys are happy to help them.
Snape stepped forward.
What happens next, Potter, is that you will rest and allow Healer Tonks to complete his work. We shall return tomorrow morning to discuss your future living arrangements.
Minutes later, Harry was sleeping peacefully, and the 3 adults stepped out of the room.
I noticed you didn't mention his uncle's status, Severus.
Said Hestia.
Neither did you.
He replied while staring off into space thoughtfully.
Neither one of you mentioned it to me either.
Said Ted.
What about the bastard? Please tell me he's rotting in a ministry holding cell. Not just yet, unfortunately.
Said Hestia.
While he was being interviewed by the Aura, Vernon Dursley suffered a massive heart attack. He's presently in intensive care in a Muggle hospital. A heart attack, you say?
Said Ted mildly.
How convenient.
The witch stiffened.
I was there, Ted. Neither the aura nor I did anything untoward, no matter how much he deserved it. Anyway, that cut the interview short, but we have enough to be sure that Harry Potter is no longer safe at the Dursley residence. Although, in their defense, Harry seemed to be fine there this summer until this doxy swarm business. Apparently, an actual attack on their home by magical creatures pushed Vernon over the edge.
Her face hardened almost into cruelty.
Not that the Wisengamot will accept that as an excuse when we file charges.
She turned to Snape.
I thought the house was supposed to be warded against magical creatures. It is.
He replied coolly.
You'll notice that none of them got inside to attack the Dursleys. Unfortunately, the wards don't extend to cover the entire grounds, and in any case, they were never intended to protect Potter from outright treachery by his own kin.
He thought for a moment.
And come to think of it, I doubt they